truly changed my life. And I can honestly say that I'm a completely different person from the moment I walked in here to today. And I have God to thank for that, only God. And, Adam was saying yesterday, all he wants from us is to stay faithful. Like, none of us is perfect, yes. But if you're staying faithful, like, what does that look like? For me, it looks like, don't give up. Anytime you get in, we all have this habit of getting in our heads like, oh, we want to draw a line in the sand. Like, oh, if this happens, I'm out. And I found that line always keeps moving back. And praise God for that. Because if you give up, if you tap out and get out of the fight, then that's when you lose. You have to constantly stay in the fight, no matter how hard it gets, because the Lord blesses us with being able to look back and say, okay, all those times when I was teetering on the edge, just beyond that, what did it produce? And how much more did I grow from that? And that's what gives you that confidence to keep going forward for the next trial. And, we're going to face trials and tribulations. Like, the Lord never said it was going to be easy. But as hard as it is, 100% of the time, in my experience, it's been completely worth it, more than worth it. And, you get disgruntled sometimes, and I have to check myself constantly when I get in a grumbly mood. It's like, well, wait, what has the Lord already done for me? What is all these things that I've received that I don't deserve? And we get mad at, anything that we think we deserve and we don't get it. Well, stop yourself and think about all the things you didn't deserve that you got. And that allows you to be grateful. And, I wanted to come up here and be edifying and be encouraging this morning because I feel like this house has been through a lot lately. And, I can honestly say in the past week and a half, the spirit on this hill is lighter. We have hope and encouragement. And, in the Bible, people sometimes will be like, I'm the only one. But the Lord's like, no, I left a remnant. Like, you're not the only one. And so when the Lord leaves a remnant, that's a blessing for us to be able to be strengthened and unified in that and to go forward. And also, I was watching a teaching yesterday, and a man explained a verse out of the Bible in a different way I've never heard it before. Matthew 5:5. It says, blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. And when we think meek, we think, humble and not confrontational and maybe weak, but yet the Lord will bless that. But it really, I think there's another way to look at that. And, this guy that was doing this teaching made it very clear that meek doesn't mean cowardly or not strong. It just means, it's like the example I can use is, it's someone who knows how to use a sword and is very proficient with it, but keeps it sheathed. That's meekness. Like knowing when to not use your strength. And just because you can doesn't mean you should all the time. So strength under control is what being meek means. And that just goes back to another saying I like is like, I'm saved, I'm not soft. And none of us should be soft because the trials and tribulations that we go through that I just talked about, it makes us strong. Being a Christian has the opposite effect of softening you. It may soften your heart to have compassion for others, but in your ability to deal with trials and things that going against your flesh constantly, that strengthens you. It strengthens me. And I'm just so grateful for all the things and all the trials that go on here because, the Lord uses this place as his tool. Like the mission didn't save my life. No one thing that anybody said to me saved my life. What saved my life was surrendering to the Lord Jesus Christ. That's what saves your life. And the longer you fight that, the more miserable you're going to be. And I'm telling you, yeah, Joe knows what I'm talking about. It's one of those things where you fight on two fronts. If you're fighting surrendering and you're fighting the trials and tribulations that this place instills in your life, you're going to get worn out and you're going to grow weary. So tap out to the Lord, but stay in the fight for the trials and tribulations that this world puts in your path. Like, the Lord's going to build you up. He's faithful, even though we're unfaithful sometimes. But that's the goal, is being faithful is not giving up. You know, we all get wrapped up in, oh, I've got to be perfect. And you put these unrealistic expectations on yourself. And all that does is tear you down. The enemy will use that 100% of the time. Like, when you get flustered because you didn't do something exactly to the T, but you were putting forth the effort to make sure that it was done to the best of your ability, that's being faithful. That's all that the Lord asks. And it was just very interesting that the way Adam put it yesterday. It was encouraging. Like, we don't have to be perfect. He doesn't demand that of us. You just have to stay in the fight. And, you know, I've seen, as of this point, I've seen triple digits of people who have tapped out and gave up. And your heart hurts for those people and you pray for those people. But what it tells me is not everybody's ready when they come in. Not everybody is willing. And the Lord brings everybody here and gives everybody the equal opportunity, but not everyone's going to take it. For narrow is the road, and few find it. You know, it's all written out in the Word. It all makes sense when you have a thought and when you're struggling with something, go to the Word. You will find an answer. You will find something that's relevant to you through any situation. I have found that to be abundantly true. And so when things like the trials that we had earlier this month happen, you know, it's easy to get caught up in the storm and be like, oh, this is happening. And we're quick to use what we think are legitimate excuses to indulge our flesh's desire to give up. And I see that so obviously now more than I ever have. And it's interesting, like as a counselor here, I get some practice. I get to cut my teeth on seeing these situations and addressing them and trying to give counsel. And what I found is that anytime you go into that thinking that your flesh or what you know is going to make any difference, you've already lost. You have to be open to what the Spirit is leading you. And that comes from surrendering. So you can't fight God. Like, tell the Lord what you ain't going to do. He's going to tell you real quick what you are going to do. But this world is going to give you circumstances and trials to make you give up, to take you further from God. That's why it says, you know, don't be conformed to this world, but be renewed by the transforming of your mind. So keep your mind on things above. And which leads me to another thing that I've really thought about a lot lately is like the inputs. What do you allow into your eyes, your ears? What do you allow to influence you? And really take stock in that. Like, am I putting in godly things? Am I putting in righteous things? And it comes down to, you know, which influence are you feeding more? The one that you feed more is going to be the one that you go with. I mean, that's obvious, right? And so the overall theme to this is that when you're feeling ungrateful, look back and remember what the Lord has done for you. Like, we're so quick to forget all the good things because it was a good thing. But like negative memories, for some reason, they hold on so much more. So that's why it's so important to make sure that your influences and the fact that you're getting in your word, you know, you stay up. You got to stay up in your word. And, you know, when I was at the office with Tony, you know, there was a man that came in and he was not happy. And he was getting the runaround with his insurance company, and he just lost his temper. And he was cursing and just being totally unreasonable with everybody around him. And I was like, wow, that guy needs the Lord. Like, I have something so valuable with my relationship with the Lord. It made me so grateful that I don't have to be like that anymore. And it's wild how much you notice. Like, we're in here in this bubble, yeah. It's very intensive. We are extreme Christians. We follow the Lord as much as possible, much more so than people out there in the world. And so when you go out in the world and you see these things, it puts it in perspective for you. And it allows you to be grateful. And, a lot of the times in here that I see someone give up or they want to dwell on what they think is a legitimate excuse. And a lot of times people don't realize that this is your life you're dealing with. Like, the life that got you in here is not a life that you can go back to. That doesn't work. So instead of worrying about things where you say, oh, I deserve that, but I didn't get it, and then you get sour about it, just remember all the things that you didn't deserve that the Lord gave you. And, it says not to be prideful, but if you're going to boast in anything, boast in the Lord. So I am trying to really change my focus on boasting in the Lord. Like, what has the Lord done for me? And he's done so much for me. He's given me the strength to walk forward through frustrations. He's allowed me to change my mind on a lot of things. He's allowed me to see people in a different light. Like, the softening of my heart has really transformed everything that I thought I knew about the world. And, it allows me to make different choices. And I couldn't have done any of that on my own power. That's all the Lord. And before I completely surrendered and said, okay, you're in charge, I desperately tried to do everything in my own strength. And with that came anger, resentment, not able to control my temper, being miserable all the time. And that's not anywhere anybody wants to be. So, surrendering to him is where that joy comes. That's where the peace comes from. And anytime you find yourself in an attitude of being ungrateful or feeling entitled, just look back and see what the Lord actually has done for you. And that also gives us the strength to go out when we get this testimony that the Lord blesses us with here. It makes it that much easier to go out and approach somebody and tell them about the gospel, to introduce them to the Lord. And it was such a weird thing to see that gentleman in the dentist office struggling so much. And I sat there and I prayed for him. And never in my life would I have done that in the past. Like, that totally caught me off guard. And I was like, okay, I do see the change. And I look back and I see all these things that the Lord has changed for me. And to be totally transparent, a lot of times we mistake things that the Lord has done for us and we try to take ownership like, oh, I did that. But that's where pride comes in, and you got to stamp that right out. You got to say, oh, no, I didn't do any of that. I didn't do any of this. Any of these changes did not come from me. Like, did I partner with it? Did I submit to it? Did I walk it out? Absolutely. But without the Lord, none of it's possible. So I'm just very, very grateful today. And I just want to brag on the Lord because he gives us all the equal opportunity. It's all up to you. And he's a gentleman. He's not going to force you to submit to him. But when you do, you'll be abundantly blessed. And I feel truly blessed this morning, and I'm truly grateful to be here. And I'm truly grateful for the Lord saving me and bringing me to this place. Like, it is, it's unexplainable, the things that have happened to me in my life. And it didn't hit me, the totality of what the Lord has done for me until just very, very recently, when I said, I'm being ungrateful. And I prayed to the Lord, like, why am I being ungrateful? Why am I struggling? Why am I growing weary? And, it's because you're not remembering what I've done for you. You'll be grateful when you remember the things I've done for you. And it has completely changed my outlook. And I just love everyone here. And I'm so excited that we have a renewing of unity in this house, and it's just very encouraging. And I want all of y'all to be encouraged, because even though we're low in quantity, we are high in quality. So be very encouraged by that. I love all y'all. Joe, you pray me out.
Just thank you for this day, Lord. Thank you for all the blessings that you give us in the court promise, Lord. We thank you for hanging on the cross for our sins, Lord.